Obviously, Jacksonville has been horrible, haven't won a game yet. They're 1-3 against the spread. This line has moved from +3.5, went up to 4.5 for Jacksonville. Just kind of looking here, I mean, for a DFS perspective, Henry is just going to be a really chalky play today. I mean, he's averaging pretty close to 30 touches per game. I mean, you can't ignore that at all. Should be a really positive game script here for Henry. Really like this. The Jags have given up the 4th most points to wide receivers, though. So kind of just feel as if without these wide receivers that Tennessee has, they're just going to hand the ball to Henry just a bunch of times, 30, 40 times, I would assume. On the other side of the ball, with this game script, the way we're kind of figuring here, I'm going to assume that Jacksonville is going to be a position where they're going to have to throw quite a bit. So actually, I don't mind Trevor Lawrence a little bit today, pairing him up with either Shenault or Marvin Jones, the former Lion. I think Marvin Jones is going to come in pretty sneaky today. Kind of like his upside. I think they're going to have to throw the ball quite a bit. So I would not doubt if Lawrence drops back about 50 times today. But yeah, also here at tight end, you might be able to look at Arnold as well. Tennessee has kind of struggled a little bit against the tight end, so I kind of do like that. But man, I'll tell you what. Henry here is just a beast. I don't think I can fade that chalk. I'm going all in with Henry today, so definitely not going to miss out on that one there. We can move along here to the next game. We have the New England Patriots at the Houston Texans. The Patriots off that huge win against the Rams. They looked really good there. So what I'm thinking here is that Houston here is going to probably struggle a little bit. I mean, especially on the run side. Houston's just been getting pretty much beat up here with the run. So I like Damian Harris here today. Houston's given up about 151 yards on the ground to opposing running backs. So I think Damian Harris is in line here to get quite a few touches. Lovie Smith's defense just stinks. We've seen him just giving up just big play after big play so far this year in week 4. But I will say here, as far as the DFS perspective, I don't really like anything here, even though it is a revenge game for Brandon Cooks going back to New England. Just not quite sure that, I want to play any kind of wide receiver with Mills as quarterback. I mean, the guy's had 5 interceptions his last 67 pass attempts. I'm kind of looking at maybe anything in DFS-wise, maybe a New England defense. Houston's only scored 9 points in their last couple games. So really like the New England defense here. I got a feeling here that they're just gonna try to shut out Cooks here. David Johnson is really nothing special, so I don't really like anything on any side of the ball here as far as any DFS perspective. Looks like the line here for New England is about 7.5. Could get up to 8 in some spots. Really low over under at 39. I'd kind of tend to lean to the under here. I think New England's just going to run the ball quite a bit, and that clock's going to run. But as far as any kind of DFS, not anything that I am really looking at. So we can move on to the next game here, which we have the Eagles going over to Carolina. Should be a really fun game. Carolina -3, over under 46 here. Man, I'll tell you what, Jalen Hurts has been a great quarterback so far this year. He's been a QB1 pretty much the first 4 weeks. Hard to ignore. Carolina has pretty much they've seen Winston, Mills, Wilson, and then they got eaten up by Prescott. So Prescott had 4 TDs. Carolina is pretty tough against the running back. They're 5th fewest points to running back. So I think this game here is going to be a game script where they're going to have to throw quite a bit. It's going to be a negative game script, which I think is going to end up taking Miles Sanders out of this game. Gainwell is the guy that pretty much they rely on here whenever they are in that type game script, whenever they're losing. They seem to throw to him quite a bit out of the backfield. It doesn't seem like Sanders is getting any of them pass opportunities out of that backfield. But I will say Carolina is going to be missing 2 of their top cornerbacks today. So that's going to be really interesting. I think this game here is just going to be basically funneled to a pass-type game. I mean, we got the news is, with CMC, there's an opportunity he may play. That's another injury we're going to have to watch here as it gets closer here to lock. If not, I think Chuba Hubbard is probably going to be in line for one more week for starts. But last week he only had 15 touches, which is concerning. He did get replaced in quite a bit of the passing situation, so he's not really filling that exact role that CMC would have filled. But definitely like some DJ Moore. DJ Moore has been averaging pretty close to 10 targets, almost 100 yards a week. He's getting a big 30% of the target share from Darnold. So definitely like this game to be a shootout. I think this game here definitely has potential to be a game here you're going to want a lot of DFS goodness. As far as like tight ends or any kind of the pass catchers for Philly, we're looking at Devonte Smith. The guy hasn't dropped one pass yet. All of his targets he's caught. He's definitely not dropping. The young kid from Alabama is looking good. But as far as the tight ends, Goddard and Ertz have been splitting the snaps here recently. Ertz did out-target Goddard last week 8-5, so not really a fan here of these tight ends just because I don't see the upside where, they're splitting just too much of those opportunities. So really not too much of a fan there. As far as a betting side here, I think I kind of like the over in this game. Go over that 46. So I'll be looking at that, especially since the Carolina's missing two key pieces, the back part of that defense. So I do expect Hurts to air it out quite a bit today. Moving along to the next game, we got kind of a boring one here with the New Orleans Saints and Washington football team. Still can't get used to calling the Washington football team. They'll always be the Redskins to me, but they are getting 2.5 here at home, over under 43. This game here is a game here that looks like 56% of the money is coming in on the Saints here. This line here went from 1, bumped up to 2.5. So, 43. Not much goodness here as far as DFS that I'm looking at. Man, Jameis has just been they put a leash on him, it looks like. I mean, he's only had 20, 22, 21, 23 pass attempts, so they're definitely not letting Jameis air it out and just run all over. So, the Washington defense is kind of interesting here for me. Jameis has been getting sacked quite a bit. Without Tony Jones, Kamara here is interesting. I mean, he's on a pace for a career high in touches. I think in this game here, they're going to try to get him more catches, more receiving opportunities, especially with that pretty stout Denver front line that they have. Washington front line. I'm sorry. Obviously, we know they got Chase, so I'm kind of worried here about Jameis. I think he's in for it today, so I think he's going to be dumping it off quite a bit to Kamara to kind of keep himself out of trouble in that with that defense, like I was mentioning. But I will say Heineke is a top 10 so far this season in yards, which is very, very surprising. And Daniel Jones did light up New Orleans last week for almost 400 yards, and that was without Slayton and Shepard. So Heineke might be interesting here today. Gibson is hobbling a little bit. He's got a bad shin. McKissick got 40% of the playing time last week, kind of cut into Gibson's touches, so that is definitely concerning. I'm a little concerned about McLaurin here just because he's going to be seeing Lattimore from New Orleans, who's their best cornerback. So I'm really concerned about that one here. Ricky Seals-Jones is going to get some playing time today. I kind of seen his name, obviously filling in for Logan Thomas, who's hurt. Yeah, I don't really think here that I like anything as far as DFS here. Just looking at it, like I said, I may be interested in some Washington defense here, potentially. I think there's some better spots than Kamara. I can't fault you if you want to play Kamara, but I definitely think there are some better spots. As far as a gambling perspective here, I can't say that I really like either of these two teams here. Washington's 1-3 against the spread. They're getting 2.5 here at home. The only thing here is it's kind of a bettors thing where they know getting 2.5 at home, it's like 78% of the time the home team wins outright when they are getting those 2.5. But I don't think I'm really a fan of anything here in this game here. But we'll just move on here to another type boring defensive game that we're going to see, and that is the Denver Broncos and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Pittsburgh looks like they're getting 1.5 in some books, around a point. Over under 39. Pretty low over under. Obviously, with a low over under like that, really is not going to be too much goodness as far as any kind of DFS. But it's going to be interesting here. I know Bridgewater's in the concussion protocol, so if Drew Lock goes out there today, I'm going to be all over Pittsburgh's defense. Even with Bridgewater, I think Pittsburgh defense is in really good spot here. The only thing I'd be looking at is Williams and Gordon, the two running backs for Denver. They've been splitting quite a few of the carries, but I do like Williams as a whole here. But I'm not sure if this is the right spot. When Gordon gets hurt or he's not in there and not going to get a lion's share of those carries or even split with Williams, that's when I'm going to be looking at Williams more so. But I think Denver's going to have a tough run here. They give up the sixth least points to running backs. So Sutton and Patrick, I'm not going to have really any interest in. But that Denver defense, though, is something that I'm going to consider. We've seen Ben. He just looks dusty. He looks old. He's not been performing very well, tripping over his own feet and stuff that we saw in a couple of them highlights. But Ben has 4 picks in his last 3 weeks, 4 fumbles. I kind of expect him possibly to drop back quite a bit, especially with Denver's run defense being number 1. So I do not expect Najee Harris to get that many handoffs. We did see him get quite a few targets that 1 week. I believe it was 19. So Najee Harris is somebody I feel as if could get in that type of game script where they're going to try to dump it off to him to try to offset some of Denver's pass rush. But the only good thing for Pittsburgh, it looks like Claypool might be looking to return here today. Denver does not give up very many points to wide receivers. So like I said, very kind of boring game for DFS-wise. 58% of the money is coming in on the Steelers at +1. Like I said, over-under is only at 39. So, I mean, looking here, if Locke is in this game, definitely going to be looking at Pittsburgh here, defense. I do like that +1 for Pittsburgh, even though with Ben looking as bad as he has and that Denver defense looking really good. I just think it's a spot here where Pittsburgh seems to have some better players on the offensive side of the ball. So I'm going to go with that with them at home. So we're, like I said, though, no DFS. I'm going to skip over that. Let's just move on then with the next game. We got our home team, Detroit Lions, facing the Minnesota Vikings. One thing I do know about this game here is it is the Survivor pool chalk. Everybody in Survivor, as far as I've been hearing, is going to have the Vikings today. So, man, the Lions can play spoiler in all those Survivor pools. So if you're in a Survivor pool, just know that I do believe Minnesota is probably going to be that heavy chalk. As far as a betting line here, this game, as we talked about here in the Woodward Bets, it started out at 8, was at like 8.5, 7.5. Man, this game's all the way up to 10 already this morning. Over under up to 49. So looks like quite a bit of movement here on the Vikings. Now at 10, I am not a fan of any kind of two-team tease here. I definitely liked that earlier when they were at like 8.5. You can get it below 3 at 2.5 with those 6 points. But up here at 10, we let that value pass by us here on Sunday. As we've mentioned a lot of times here on the Woodward Bet Show, you got to kind of just look at these early lines. That's where you get the value. When it gets here to Sunday, I mean, unless you were liking the Lions and you knew that it was going to get up there, and get up there closer to that 10 range. I mean, that's the only way I would have waited. But that two-team tease, getting them Minnesota at home under 3 is something that I definitely do have a piece of, a few in my bets here today. So I'll be looking at that. But the Lions do have some concern today offensively. Sounds like they may be without Penny Sewell and Decker today. So going over to Minnesota. That is definitely a concern for that offense of the Lions. But one thing I can say, though, that Lions backfield with Swift and Williams, looks like they're sharing quite a bit of the snaps. But Swift, I want to say, was 14-12 in touches last week for Swift, even though Swift did see 73% of the snaps. But whenever the game is going to be in a negative game script for the Lions when they're losing, Swift has been getting quite a few dump-offs in the backfield, which I like. So I do think Swift here in this game script is going to have quite the opportunities here to perform. So definitely like Swift getting some balls out of that backfield. Another guy I want to mention is TJ Hawkinson. Put up a dud the last few weeks. I think teams are realizing that he is one of their main receiving threats here, so they're trying to take him out of the game. But Hawkinson did have 8 targets last week and ran a whopping 41 pass routes, which is quite a few. Also, Minnesota gives up the 8th most points to tight end. So I think Hawkinson's got a really good chance here to put up a decent game. They should be losing, but, man, Goff has not looked all that great so far as a fantasy perspective. But the other thing we're going to have to really watch in this game is Dalvin Cook. Looks like he may play today. Not quite sure how much run he's going to get, especially in this game where they're favored by so much. I think Madison here is going to get quite a bit of run. If Cook is deemed out here before game time, I think Madison is a great play today. He'll obviously get a lion's share of those carries, no pun intended. Detroit gives up the most points to running backs. So definitely going to be looking at the running backs here of Minnesota. An interesting one here is Conklin for tight end for Minnesota as well. He has run quite a few routes here. I think it was like the 11th most routes here as far as tight ends go so far. So definitely like Conklin. I know I had some questions this week about Cousins and the passing game in Minnesota. I think that's a slippery slope. You kind of have to expect the Lions to keep up here. So, man, the Jeffersons and the Thielens of the world, I mean, you may only get one half here of these guys to where they get up, and then you might just see a lot of the running game come at you here against the Lions, especially if they can't stop the run. So, little bit hesitant here on that. I will just tell you, though, it is interesting. Now that is up to 10. The Lions are getting 55% of the money coming in on the Lions at that number. So that's interesting. Not sure if I like that here at the 10 mark. Like I said, I liked it a little bit earlier. The Lions are 2-2 against the spread. The Vikings are also 2-2 against the spread. Going to be a tough road game here. If anything in this game, I may look at the over. I kind of expect Minnesota to put up a mid-30s here. So, if we can get the Lions to get us maybe 2 touchdowns, 14 points, I think this game's the path to go over is really good. So definitely like the over in this game. Let's just excuse me. Let's move along here to the next game. We got the Green Bay Packers, really interesting game. Green Bay Packers and the Cincinnati Bengals. I think this one has shootout potential written all over it. We got an over-under of 50.5. Looks like the Bengals are around -3 at this point. Line has not moved at all. The over-under did go up a point from starting at 49.5. It's up to 50.5. Man, the Packers look really good. 63% of the money so far today are coming in on the Packers. Home team here for the Bengals getting 3 points. Kind of concerning. Cincinnati is on 10 days rest, though. So after that game they had with Jacksonville on that Thursday night, sounds like they're going to get T. Higgins back, which is a boost to that offense. Mixon's hobbling a little bit. Sounds like he may try to give it a go. A little concern there how much run they're really going to give him. So P. Ryan should get some little bit of work today. Chris Evans is their secondary back, third down back, gets a lot of the receptions out of the backfield. So kind of expect him in play as a sneaky play as well. Boyd has emerged, even though Jamar Chase is the touchdown guy. Boyd seems to be the guy he goes to in those situations, possession-type situations to turn over the chains. So I'm definitely liking Boyd here. I will say Green Bay is going to be without their top corner, Jair Alexander, today, which is concerning for that defense. So definitely like the passing games here on both sides of the ball. I mean, we already know Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers. I mean, to have Aaron Rodgers and Devonte Adams stack is something you probably should look at almost every week, man. Devonte Adams just gets so much of that target share from Aaron Rodgers. I mean, an insane almost 40% of his passes are going to Devonte Adams, even though they do not have MVS. Cobb found the end zone twice last week, 55 yards. Lazard, Tanyan, those guys are also in play. Not really sure if I'm a fan of Tanyan as much this week. Kind of think Cincinnati with they got some pretty decent linebackers over there. Not really sure. I think they're just going to air it out today. I think this is going to be a game where they're going to let Burrow drop back, throw it quite a bit, especially without Alexander, with Mixon being hurt. So, I mean, they're just taking it right here to a funnel-type passing game. So, definitely like this game here. Lots of DFS goodness. Gonna probably have a stack or two of this game. May even go that Joe Burrow route and then maybe look at Higgins, Boyd, or Chase, and then bounce it back with like a Devonte Adams. Really, really like that here today. I think that's going to be pretty popular. As far as the betting side goes, man, the Packers are looking really good. I think they're just got some – I mean, that locker room's got to be excited after they made some pretty big moves this week, added to that team. So – man, I'm telling you, I really think this game here for the Packers is a really good spot. I think the Packers come out to Cincinnati today and they put one over on them here. I think the Packers are going to win this game by possibly 10, but I am looking for a pretty high-scoring game. So I'm looking at maybe like a 40-28 game, somewhere around there. So again, this game here full of some DFS goodness. Let's move it on here to the next game that we have on the slate. And that is the Miami Dolphins traveling down to Tampa Bay to visit the GOAT and the Buccaneers. The GOAT obviously being Tom Brady. Just looking here, they're 1-3 against the spread. 62% of the money in this game is coming in here on Tampa. This one opened up at 10.5. It's down to 10. Over under 48. This game here, you know, I can't really say that I am enamored with any of this passing game for the Bucs in this one. Little concern here for Mike Evans. He is going to see quite a bit of Xavier Howard today. Don't really like doing that. Tom Brady is all about the matchup. So if anybody here today, I'm going to look at Godwin. Godwin has definitely plays quite a bit of the slot, as we know. Miami's been getting beat up here in the slot, so kind of like Godwin, but for me, I think this game is going to end up being a Leonard Fournette game. So really have a lot of interest today in Leonard Fournette. Fournette seems to have taken over the lion's share of the carries for these Buccaneers. And I will say, just kind of looking here at my notes, I want to make sure on the snaps. He had 82% of the snaps last week, which is definitely encouraging if you're a Fournette owner and season long. 23 touches. Miami does give up the third most points to running backs, so I think Fournette is in line here to have a really good game. On the Miami side, man, I might be looking at some Tampa defense here. Brissett has been sacked 9 times so far in 3 games. Miami is one of the worst teams as far as protecting the quarterback. So obviously we know with that Tampa defense, Sue and them boys, they should be able to get after Brissett. And they don't seem to have any sort of running game. Myles Gaskin's been getting out snapped by Malcolm Brown, 35-12. So, man, Gaskins is definitely not a guy that I'm looking at. If you got him on your season-long rosters, might be a little concerned there. Might start looking elsewhere. This game here, I think the only kind of offensive players I may be looking at for the Dolphins might be Mike Gesicki. Gesicki has been getting quite a few looks here from Brissett when Brissett has come in. Gesicki had 8 targets last week. The Bucs have given up the 7th most points to tight ends. So if they're losing here, I do expect them to run the ball, like I said. So maybe a good play here would be to look at maybe Gesicki in a little mini game stack where Fournette, to where if they're losing, I think they're going to have to throw to Gesicki. As far as any kind of bets here, I'd almost just look at Miami getting these 10 points. I mean, that's quite a few points. I mean, the Tampa Bay just came off, obviously, a really tough game going back to New England. So I don't know if Tampa Bay is going to sleepwalk through this one here. So I'm kind of interested in these 10 points. Not so interested where I'm going to call it a best bet of mine. But definitely have a little bit of interest in the Dolphins there with those points. Moving along to the next game, we have the Chicago Bears and Justin Fields, who was just anointed the starter there in Chicago, going to the Vegas Raiders. The Vegas Raiders, looks like here we got them at -5.5. 69% of the money are coming in on the Raiders, 31% on the Bears, getting those 5.5. Both teams are 2-2 against the spread. Really no line movement. The line over-under went up from 44.5 up to 45. Just kind of looking at this game here, man, Matt Nagy looked awful in the first few weeks. It appears as though, from what I'm reading, he gave the play calling duties to his offensive coordinator in week 4. I think Justin Fields here in this game is a boomer bust type play. Obviously, we saw Montgomery out, so Damian Williams, the old Chief, is going to be in play. He's really good out of the backfield catching passes, so going to be looking at a little bit of Damian Williams today. With Justin Fields, Mooney was getting quite a few of the looks from Justin Fields, so Mooney might be in play as well here today. Little bit, what do you have, 29% of that target share from Justin Fields, which is quite a bit. I mean, we're almost getting a little bit shy of Devonte Adams type numbers. But, man, where's Allen Robinson been? We haven't seen Allen Robinson really at all. The Raiders do not really give up that many points to wide receivers, especially with that great defensive line they have. So that's why I kind of feel as if Damian Williams is going to be in play. They're going to try to avoid Max Crosby and the other parts of that defensive line there. So I think Williams is going to be in line here to potentially get quite a few dump-offs. Looking at the Raiders side of the ball, obviously Carr's been really good, but I think they're going to try to get Jacobs involved here. He didn't really look that great to me last week. He didn't really seem to have his normal type burst that he had, but they still gave him the ball 18 times. So I think they're going to try to establish a little bit of that running game with Jacobs and Peyton Barber. Waller has not looked like he did in the first week, obviously. He did have 5 catches in like 9 straight games, so Waller is always a tight end, high upside tight end. Definitely got to look at him. Renfro, though, is a guy who has emerged here in this Raider offense. And that guy's on pace for like mid-90 catches. The slot has been getting beat up there against the Bears. Kupp, Boyd, and we even saw our own Lions, St. Brown, tear up the Bears. So kind of going to be looking at Renfro today as a sneaky type DFS play. Really like this, especially if Fields get out there and put some points on the board. We're going to hopefully see a little bit of Renfro. But as far as any kind of DFS stacks, anything like that, I can't say that I'm really interested in this game as far as any kind of stacking purposes. But as far as any kind of bets, I think I'm going to go with the Raiders here. The Raiders getting 69% of the money at home. Bears traveling across the country, going out to Las Vegas. Going to be a tough team for teams going out to Vegas. I mean, the curfew, trying to keep these guys in line out in Sin City. I know I'd have a hard time with that myself. But definitely going to be looking at the Vegas Raiders here. Might even look at a first half bet here. But definitely not any goodness as far as any kind of DFS goes. But we're going to move along to the next game. We have the Cleveland Browns and the Chargers. This one here is definitely an interesting game for me. I've been really keeping my eye on the Chargers. I think they're a sneaky team that can sneak up and get into that Super Bowl here as we move on. This line started out -1.5. It's up to 2.5 for the Chargers. We saw that dud that the Browns put up last week with the Vikings. Really didn't do much. I'll tell you, man, Baker looked horrible last week. I mean, he missed OBJ I don't know how many times. OBJ looked really, really frustrated with Baker. So does OBJ get that squeaky wheel love today? I kind of think so. I did say I wanted to divorce myself from playing OBJ, but after watching the replay of that game and realizing how bad Baker was, I really can't blame OBJ here. So might be firing up some OBJ, but I will say the Chargers are really, really tough against the wide receivers, giving up the second fewest points to wide receivers. So definitely going to be concerned with that. The Chargers lost one of their main run stoppers, inside linebacker Murray, and they've been giving up 5 yards per carry. So little interested in Chubb and Hunt, even though they do split too much of the carries for me with the upside. But definitely going to be looking here. Eckler was pretty big last week, 18 touches, 2 touchdowns. Going to be looking at a little bit of Eckler. But, man, that Chargers defense is really stout, only giving up 18 points per game. So this one here started out at a over-under 48.5 down to 47. I might look at the under here in this game. Excuse me. Moving on, talking so much my voice gets dry here trying to do this solo. But we're going to get through it here so we can get the people here some winners. Moving on to the next game, we have the Giants and the Cowboys. Now, this is a game here I think has probably the biggest shootout potential. Been looking at this game all week as far as DFS. And I think the Vegas side here is agreeing with me. 49.5 it started out. It bumped up 3 points to 52.5. Man, that's a huge bump up in points. Just kind of looking here, Dallas started out 7.5 down to 7. Man, I'll tell you who's been looking really good here is Saquon Barkley. He's 90% of the snaps. He's just been really fitting into that lion's share role as we expected him to. I think this is going to be a game script here where it just don't really matter for Barkley. I think he's going to get quite a few dump-offs. Barkley is one of their main integral parts of this offense that we've seen. They've also given up the most receptions to running backs. So kind of expect Barkley to be in play today. I will say Ingram, though, is somebody I've heard some people talking about. Man, this guy's only had 1 touchdown in his last 16 games, so really not sure if I'm going to be a fan of Ingram. It looks like, kind of watching the injuries, we may get some Shepard and some Slayton back. I'm going to have to keep my eyes on that. Obviously, Galladay is in play over there. But just kind of looking at this Dallas side, Dalton Schultz has been a guy here who has just been hot. So really like some Dalton Schultz today. Split a little bit of time with Jarwin, but really not too concerning for me. Definitely like some of the pass catchers here for Dallas, and obviously Prescott's a guy you can look at. I do like these dual threat type quarterbacks that can run one in. Prescott definitely fits that mold. And one thing I'm going to mention, just looking at sack rates, the Giants are last in sack rates, so I think Prescott's going to have all day to throw here, which is why I do like this to be a high-scoring game. I think you're going to see Cooper and Lamb getting wide open, get some separation. So I am going to be looking at a possible game stack with Lamb. I will say I think Cooper is going to draw primarily the best corner from the Giants. Not saying that's a lockdown type situation. Definitely going to be looking at that. As far as the betting side, 61% of the money are coming in on the Cowboys. But like I said, I'm going to be looking at the over here, 52.5. Yeah, so before we get out of here and get over, make sure everybody, you guys tune in to our pregame show over at Atool. Is going to be on at 11 o'clock. We got Braylon Edwards, Maz, Ryan Armani, and the crew over there with the Riff doing the Woodward Sports pregame show for the Lions. So make sure you guys get over there. If you can't get over there and check it out, make sure you tune in and see what the boys have to say from 11 to 1, right up before kickoff. Should be fun. A lot of fun. Always is. And then always we have Stick and the boys over there at the pub down there in Detroit for the after game show. So make sure you check that out as well. Before we get out of here, let me give you a couple DFS plays that I really like today. At quarterback, just kind of looking here at quarterback for me today, I really do like me some Aaron Rodgers today in that Cincinnati and Green Bay game. Also like Joe Burrow in that game. Also, one of my top plays is going to be Jalen Hurts in that Carolina game. Like some Jalen Hurts over there. I think he's got pretty positive game script. We'll see what's going on over there with that CMC injury as well. As far as running backs today, definitely keeping my eye on that Dalvin Cook situation. If he's out, I think Madison's going to be a run. But the top running back for me, I cannot fade him today. That is Derrick Henry. No way am I fading Henry, a guy getting 30 looks a week against a pretty poor Jacksonville team. I really like me some Derrick Henry. I think a guy under the radar today is going to be James Conner. Edmonds is hurt. It looks like he may try to give it a go. I'm not sure how much they're going to really give him the ball. Do like Conner a little bit today as a low-priced guy, but Fournette is another guy I mentioned. He's only $5,200 over there on DraftKings. Really like some Leonard Fournette today against Miami. So Fournette and Henry are going to be two of my top running backs today. Breaking down the wide receivers, just kind of going through some wide receivers that I'm looking at today. Devonte Adams in that Cincinnati games, especially with that lion's share of opportunities he's getting, 40-some% of those is really hard to ignore. Also like Deebo Samuel, that guy's quietly been putting up quite a bit of numbers for that San Francisco team. And over there with Samuel, I'm kind of looking at that game script is going to be in a positive form with Trey Lance over there. Definitely like that. DJ Moore is definitely interesting as well. Been a top receiver, averaging over 100 yards. Really like some DJ Moore. Did mention Renfro today as a sneaky low-owned guy, low-price guy that I like as well. And then Godwin in that Tampa Bay game. I do think they're going to run quite a bit, but I do think they have an advantage there in the slot. But before we get out of here, I do want to give you guys a bet. I've been hot on my best bets. As you know, gave away Eastern the other day. I think I'm at 4 out of my last 5 have hit. So before we get out of here, my favorite play today is going to be the San Diego team total over 24. I really like the Chargers here to put up a bunch of points. So look at that Charger over team total. I am on that. That is my best bet for the day. So again, be sure you guys get over there and check out O'Toole's and our Up to Lock show over there with the Woodward Sports team. But that is going to do it for the Woodward Bet Show. I am Scott G. Risen. Looking forward to a fun day today. Good luck in all your contests. And we are out. Good luck.